Hello everybody, and welcome to the New Earth Teachings special presentation here for Saturday, December 8th. And of course, we're going to be doing the Adronis Open Forum. So I want to welcome all of you for being here. Thank you so much. Had a little bit of technical difficulties just before getting on the air, but I'm glad I was able to get all of that taken care of. So with the Adronis, I was about to call him Adropus. I don't want to call him that, all right. Hello everybody, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. So with the Adronis Open Forum today, just as we had the previous month, we will be taking live questions for everybody in the chat. So if you guys do have questions for Adronis today, you can just feel free to go to the watch page on the YouTube channel, and you can access the live chat there and place your questions. So there's going to be a couple of announcements before we begin. The exciting thing is that there are some new shows that are going to be coming to the New Earth Teachings YouTube channel. So the new shows are going to involve two new Adronis shows. So the first one is going to be the Adronis Top 3 Weekly. So it's very similar to how I've done the Adronis Top 5, or tried to do it every single month. But this is going to involve 3 questions that are going to be given to me by viewers. And so there will be a special setup for that that I'm going to be announcing in an upcoming video this week about people how they can submit their questions for the show. So again, that's the Adronis Top 3 Weekly, and that will be broadcasting every Friday. Okay, so there will be a broadcast every Friday for that show with the 3 questions that people pose. And so that's going to be a continual thing every week, of course, hence the name, Adronis Top 3 Weekly. Then secondly, there is also the Adronis Archive. And Adronis is basically going to share a whole wealth of information, basically topic by topic. And through that topic by topic discussion, it's going to be airing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So 5 days a week we will have the Adronis Archive happening here on the New Earth Teachings YouTube channel. So those are just 2 of the exciting shows that are going to be coming. As I stated, I am going to be working more on getting a lot of free content on a full-time level here with the New Earth Teachings YouTube channel. I am still doing private sessions, so that's still available. My private session time right now is Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. This gives me Monday and Friday, and perhaps the odd weekend, to work more on the videos that I'm going to be doing for the channel. So a lot of exciting stuff that's coming. There's also going to be another new show called Inner Practices that's in development right now, and that's going to be showing you guys exercises that you can try, methods, other levels of guidance that can be applied as you work into self-realization, self-empowerment, and self-worth, self-value, right? Looking into these practices and seeing how they are changing you, how they're transforming you. So that's going to be another exciting show that's going to come on the network as well. And of course, we have the special offer that's still available when I was doing the empathic interfacing earlier this week. So again, if you go to newearthteachings.com, you can purchase any particular session or product that you wish. And again, you'll get a 20% discount. So get 20% off all sessions and products from New Earth Teachings. Just use the promo code TEACHINGS20, all in capital letters, TEACHINGS20 on the shopping cart page. Apply that, and you'll get 20% off. So again, this is good until the end of day tomorrow. So just before midnight of tomorrow, Pacific time, this offer will be available. So take advantage of it, get 20% off all sessions and all products. So everything, every session, every product that's on New Earth Teachings, you can get a 20% discount off. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get into it. Again, thank you everybody for joining me today. Just trying to make sure that there's no technical difficulties on my end. Everything's running smoothly. That's why I'm a little bit distracted right now. Okay, computer cooperate, internet cooperate. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm just going to read out the very first question. I'll be choosing the questions here in the live chat. My recommendation to everybody is just make sure that if you do ask questions, they are semi-personal or general in nature. Okay, no personal questions are going to be answered here. That's what the private sessions are for. Okay, so semi-personal or general questions will be chosen through the chat. So once I pick out the first question, then I'll bring Adronis in, and Adronis will provide some insight on those questions. Just again, how last month worked as well. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll up to the top of the Q&A, and I will be working my way down. Okay. So just going down the list now. Okay, there's one here from Scott Fee. Could Adronis discuss the prospect of China and the Chinese people from economic, social, and spiritual perspectives for the next 30 to 50 years? Well, that's a big question, Scott, so we will see what happens when Adronis comes through for that. Okay, so that'll be the first question. I'll go ahead and bring Adronis in right now. I'll be doing some chanting in the background, and of course you'll be seeing me doing my famous orbiting, right? So again, that orbit that I do, that rotation, is just part of me being able to connect to the information that Adronis is sharing with me, and it really helps to, again, solidify and stabilize the connection quite well. Okay, so if anybody's wondering why I do that, that's why I do that. It helps. Okay, so I'll bring Adronis in, and we'll get started with the first question regarding China, the Chinese people, economic, social, and spiritual perspectives for the next 30 to 50 years. Okay, here we go. Terra Soul Star Sirius Adronis we are here at this time. We bid you greetings and thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius. We say hello to all who are tuning in to this broadcast through your internet collective consciousness. What we would ask all of you to do at this time is simply allow yourselves to get relaxed, get comfortable, and tune in to the vibrations of Sirius so that you may synchronize, harmonize, and align to all of the insight that we have to share. Also understand that all that we shall provide as it relates to insight is simply that of our perspective, our point of view. For all knowledge, all information, all creation itself resides within your very hearts, beings, and souls. We thank you firstly to the entity known as Scott, relating to his question about the Chinese people. Sociologically, economically, spiritually, where are they headed in the next 30 to 50 years? It really doesn't help to look at these things in the form of national divisions, because in that sense, that becomes an impairment. You have to understand that you have an entire world of nations together. You have an entire race of people of all different walks of life together. It's about looking at that particular equation together. But since you asked, relating to the idea of China, there will basically be, in times ahead, abolishment of the current leadership that you have as it relates to China. It's going to move much more into the idea of, shall we say, a true republic. And what that basically means is that much in regards to the dictatorships that are often found within China, there are going to be people who are going to revolt. So basically you could say that there will be protests, there will be, shall we say, uprisings as it relates in time, relating to, shall we say, kicking out those old leaders and basically moving much more into what you would know as a fair and just systems, relating to their own, shall we say, growth on a spiritual level, yes, and of course on an economical level, on a sociological level. There will also be, shall we say, much more balance between what you would know as masculine and feminine coming together in China. Now again, there is much to China that again is not being shared appropriately as it relates to the aspect of your mainstream news. Of course, no big surprise there. But in that sense, China basically holds a very strong, what you would consider to be financial power. Much of the wealth that is upon your planet right now is starting to move over to China. And so in that sense, they are holding this particular, shall we say, goblet of financial abundance. But that goblet, in that sense, the liquid inside is going to be poured out. There is going to be distribution upon the entire world, as it relates to the forefront where all eyes will start to look upon China. But again, much in regards to what has been shared about China within your media, in that sense, is not quite accurate. In fact, we would say that much of the Earth Alliance has a very large station upon China. And so as the times come where you move into your next few decades, 30 to 50 years approximately, yes, you will see a very, very different land. So you will see, again, people in cooperation. You will actually see China, in that sense, opening up much more of its borders, more of its boundaries, and welcoming more of the world in. So again, this is the whole idea that right now you're in a heavy transitional stage. The idea of the leadership in China, in that sense, is going to change. So there are going to be different forms of political movement. There are going to be, again, protests. There are going to be occupations that are going to come together that will insist that certain leaders are being removed. So again, this won't happen for quite some time yet, but that is basically the energy about what is taking place. The aspect of the Chinese yuan in that particular way will again hold a particular strong value, but what the Chinese are basically attempting to implement into themselves will eventually be cryptocurrency dynamics. And so there certainly will be changing of funds that will be taking place here in the next several years as it relates to the yuan that will transfer itself into these other particular forms of cryptocurrency markets, because as we have stated around the times of your early to mid 2020s, you will start to notice a larger rise as it pertains to the cryptocurrency markets. The fiat currency is on the way out. It's looking to basically hit such a decline that something else can pick up its slack. And that will most likely be the cryptocurrencies. But there will also be other forms of currencies upon your planet, basically independently created. Basically what you would know as state or provincial banks, where there will be, again, legal tender applied. And again, therefore, there will be transfers taking place to basically any man, woman, or child that are looking to, therefore, shift their old aspect of fiat currency into the idea of new currencies that, again, will be local. There, again, will be also the opportunity for cryptocurrencies. So we state that, again, in your times ahead, it's not about one particular currency dominating everything. It's the idea of several different currencies that will be available. So one of them, yes, is cryptocurrency. Second will represent, again, local money, local banks, provincial, state banks that will be coming forward as well too. Fiat currency is dying. And so the whole idea is that not just China, but much in the rest of the world in that sense will start to benefit from this form of, shall we say, new structure of finances, where again the aspect of prosperity funding will also be underway for many countries, China included, but again not for quite some time ahead yet. They are still again attempting to resolve much of the matters pertaining to the fiat markets. So that is what we can share as it relates to that. Sociologically, again, China will start to open much of its borders. It will start to work together with people. It will start to be innovative. There will be much more of a cooperation energy rather than a confinement energy. Right now, you're noticing confinement, yes, but this is going to pass in the next several years to come. So that, again, there will be much more of a level of cooperation. You are simply getting the aspect of what you would know as, quote-unquote, the deep state, or the aspect of the cabal in that sense, out of the picture. Once that happens, a large level cooperation will be taking place that, again, is all part of this transdimensional shift from one dimension to another. We thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Scott, for your question. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on. So most likely, guys, I'm probably just going to be taking one question from each of you. This just gives an opportunity for people who are still wanting to ask questions to come forward. Okay, so I do have a question here from Kevin. How can one love someone if one had the unconditional experience of feeling love from ET beings? I find it's hard to see love on Earth as love. Okay, so I think I'm getting the grasp of your question here. How can one love someone if one had the unconditional experience of feeling love from ET? Okay, I see what you mean. Okay, great. Thank you, Kevin. Let me take a moment to bring Adronis in for this. We thank you very much, Kevin, for your question. Now we have a question for you. If a person basically loves you unconditionally and shows and expresses your love, is that the only person that deserves your unconditional love in return? Because that's the whole idea about what they're teaching you. Is that if one particular being, say you do have a connection with an extraterrestrial consciousness, and that these beings are sharing so much love, like they're just wrapping a blanket of love unconditionally upon you, and you feel this incredible wave of love just flowing through you. Now you therefore come back onto Earth, and you see humanity around you, and they're not quite as loving as what you experienced relating to those extraterrestrials. Well, basically what this is telling you is that we are showing you that love itself is possible. You are therefore being a love teacher because you felt this love within yourself. You see, here's the thing that many of you humans in that sense don't get, is that when you basically receive this particular type of love, it's not in the idea of attempting to bring you into a state of depression that you'll never love something like that ever again. It's the idea that the love that you were able to experience in that level of unconditionality, you have now experienced and known that it's possible. Those in that sense who have not known that type of love can now learn it through you. Do you see what they're doing here? They're helping you become a love specialist because you have felt that unconditional love. You have come into the fold where you have experienced someone that has such deep love for you, deep unconditional love, and you have felt it all through your soul. And now you come back on this planet where people are still looking at conditional love in that way. There has to be boundaries. There has to be limitations. Well, doesn't that make a great teacher? Someone who has actually experienced that pure unconditional love, to teaching that to those who didn't think it existed, just as you once did? That's the idea. You see, the whole idea about true love, it doesn't have to be reciprocated. Again, for you to feel that you must have reciprocative love in that way becomes ignorance. Love itself does not have a condition behind it. It's when you're actually looking at love and you're feeling love within yourself, and there's this purity of love unlike anything you've ever felt before. Now you're able to pass that on to people. You're able to hold on to that one moment where you felt so much love, and you're sharing it with the entire planet. And now people can experience it in the way that you did by you holding that frequency in that one moment where you felt it the strongest. That gives you experience. That makes you a guide for people to learn how to love deeper. Because when these beings came up to you, did they feel that you had to do something in order for them to bring you unconditional love? No, you didn't. They loved you for who you are. You didn't have to prove anything to them. You didn't have to reciprocate anything to them. You didn't have to go to the point where you said, well, I just have to give them some type of gift, and then they'll love me unconditionally. No. They love you unconditionally for who you are. That's a teaching, dear one. And so when you're moving towards coming back to the earth and looking at all of these humans in that sense who may not have experienced love on that level, you have experience now. You can share that with other people. You can say, I'm going to go back to that moment. I'm going to feel that unconditional love, and I'm going to feel it like a wave. And when you truly connect back to that point, and you distribute that love like a wave to others, they feel it. And saying, oh my goodness, I've never felt love like this before. Kevin, thank you so much for this. Because all you did was go into your presence. That person didn't need to do anything to earn your unconditional love. Again, that becomes an ignorance. That person does not need to prove themselves to therefore receive your unconditional love. That defeats the purpose. That is making love conditional. That's why you feel that many of you are in a trap. Something has to be reciprocated here. Love itself bypasses that degree of equivalent exchange. Therefore, when you're just present and you feel this full wave of love coming through you, it doesn't ask for a price tag. It doesn't ask for any particular form of buyer's remorse. It doesn't ask for anything from you. You are simply experiencing it because that's what you're made out of. So this is what we suggest to you, Kevin, is that by you experiencing that type of love, you are, without condition, sharing it back with the entire planet. Because love is not going to say, oh, well, this person did that, so I'm not going to love them. To heck with them. This person is like this in this personality. I'm not going to give them any love. Of course not. Love itself is pure. And it is always going to flow through everyone. Because that's what this universe is made out of. You have only distorted yourselves into the idea of these particular cloudy, foggy situations where you feel love itself is being held back from you. It's only being held back because you're putting so much focus and intentions on melodramas that have nothing to do with you. So the more that you're putting love forward, the more that you're allowing this wave of love to radiate through you, everybody on the entire planet can feel it. We would suggest this to everybody. If you had a moment where you felt pure, unconditional love, like it was from the grace of the Creator itself, pass it on. That's what your world requires right now. Rather than your idea of arguing about your politics, arguing about your economics, arguing about the idea of secret programs, doesn't matter. What truly matters in that idea is the love energy that you feel through each other. That's what's going to awaken you. That's what's going to activate you. That's what's going to enhance you. That's what's going to advance you. That's what's going to ascend you. By doing that, it's not going to come through your research. It's not going to come through your testimonials of looking at other people about other ETs or what your planet's going through, etc. That doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the love inside your heart that you are able to pass on, share, because you are enriched by it, because you have had that one brief moment of pure unconditional love. For you to have that, pass it on. That is the strength of humanity. We thank you. Okay, good advice there too. So thank you, Kevin, for your question. Just take a moment, guys. Still going through the hoarse voice here. Okay. Hello, Rich from Atlanta. Nice to meet you. Hi, everybody. London. Excellent. Thank you. Got people from all over the world here. It's awesome. All right. Okay, so we got one here from Farzad. For Adronis, are the weather seasons eventually going to change as we move to the 5th dimension? Okay, one moment. We thank you very much, Farzad, for your question. Is your weather not changing right now? You're noticing that there are a great deal of changing weather patterns that are taking place. So yes, this will continue to happen, but this is all part of a fluctuation. This is all part of the idea of a cycle that happens approximately every 25,000 years or so. Is that again, you will notice an increase in weather patterns. You will notice again, quote unquote, different aspects of climate change taking place. It is not really a man-made phenomenon, as we stated. Yes, there are certainly pollutions in your atmosphere. Yes, there certainly is pollutions in your water, pollution in your air, in the ground, etc. And of course, it is absolutely necessary to clean all of that up. But the aspect of climate change is a natural cycle. This happens, again, approximately every 25,000 years. And so you go through these cyclic shifts. You go through these currents of change altogether because it's letting you know that the Earth is changing. She's moving up now to a higher state of graduation, returning back into the 4th density. So again, when that happens, there will be certain forms of cyclic changes pertaining to your climate. There will again be much more intense earth changes taking place upon your planet. Volcanoes, floods, hurricanes, earthquakes. Yes, that's all part of the fluctuations, because humanity in that sense has basically functioned very much in regards to the aspect of distortion for thousands and thousands of years. And because all of this distortion has really been embedded into the planet, she's shaking it all loose. And so in that particular way of shaking it all loose, the climate's going to change. The aspect of your earth changes are going to take place. The aspect of the poles in that sense may shift and tilt slightly, as they have been doing. All of this is taking place. It's not about worrying about the aspect of your glaciers in your northern and southern poles. They have melted before in times past, and in that sense they have frozen over again. It is a continual cycle that has happened for millions and millions of years. Because the aspect of your glaciers melting does not represent the idea in that sense of some particular type of global flood. That is a myth. It is more so in the idea that all this is happening right now as a means of change. Because humanity has been on this surface, on this planet, we would say for many thousands and thousands of years. Once in that sense a very, very peaceful people, connected very deeply into the roots of spirituality, consciousness, and oneness. And then, of course, going through these times of great corruption, these times of great distortion, to where, again, there has been so much emotional impact upon the planet that this is exactly what the Earth has to do. The aspect of the changes become more and more intense because humanity doesn't know how to manage itself. It doesn't know how to manage its emotions. It doesn't know how to work itself into the higher levels. It requires assistance. And so this is basically what's happening. The Earth again starts to go through changes. You go through fluctuations. You allow these dense energies in that sense to come to the surface. And of course, all life upon the planet is affected by this. Not just humans, your animals, your vegetation, everything is being affected by these changes. And so the planet is again going through what you would know as this transitional cycle where a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. So these particular cycles of change will continue to happen. Again, it is something that is predicted to happen for the next, shall we say, approximate quarter of a century at least. So again, moving into that point where you will see more of these shifts taking place is all part and parcel of the aspect of the Earth giving birth to a new dimension, giving birth to herself, to where she moves up an escalated ladder, moving into fourth density, fifth dimension. Yes. So when you therefore enter fourth density, will these particular changes continue? No, they won't. Because you're on a planet in that sense that's much more fresh to you in that sense. So that when the humans who are therefore able to move from one density to another, to move up to this other world, it is going to be a fresh experience. So very much in the idea of what you would know as the earth changes, the aspect of the earth shifts, none of that will take place in fourth density. At least not for quite some time, depending upon, again, the collective consciousness that inhabits that particular sphere. All right? We thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, Farzad, for your question. Okay, Christo asks, what is the truth with the California fires? I've actually already addressed this question, so I would just say just go back into the video where I've talked about this. It was talked about in, actually I think I did a video specifically on it. But basically, in a nutshell, the California fires were directed energy weapons. Okay, I know I did a video about this. The title's not coming to me right now. But it's all directed energy weapons, satellites, in that sense. And there's many different agendas behind it as well, too. So the California fires were indeed man-made, were indeed intentional. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, whoops, sorry, I missed my spot here. I gotta go back up again. So, okay, we got a lot of questions here, so very good, people. Okay, so there again was more questions about California. Okay, so let me go back here. I'm a little bit further up here. Okay. Okay, so Ritzy asks, can Adronis give some details on galactic origins of Hindu deities? Okay, one moment. We thank you very much for your question. As it relates to what you would know as your deities in the Hindu faith, well, you would understand that these are what you would know as deity beings that are part of different dimensional earths. And so they exist in pockets, they exist in dimensional spheres. They are caregivers, they are caretakers, they are again teachers, they are guides. They can also represent warriors, they can also represent scribes, they can also represent foretellers in that way. They are different dimensional beings that exist around the sphere, the grid of your entire planet. And they operate in different dimensions in that particular way. So therefore, in that sense, many of these beings come forward through the aspects of summoning. Simply because they have a relationship with your earth. Now, some of them do represent jinn. Some of them, again, do represent, shall we say, higher aspects of non-physicalized consciousness that will therefore take forms that can relate to the idea of the deities in the Hindu faith that you would understand. So again, many of them do exist, not so much as extraterrestrials. Many people in that sense will try to give that impression of them, that they in that sense represent extraterrestrial beings. Not really. They're much more in the idea connected to extra-dimensional spheres. And many of them in that sense of what you would know are gods of their own realms, gods of their own spaces, gods of their own spheres. And so this is why in that sense the aspect of the Hindu faith will see them as deities or gods. Now some of these particular Hindu deities in that sense have actually demanded certain sacrifices. And again, we would say that those ones are more jinn related. But there are true deities in that sense that you would know, and again, we will just call them that for that means sake, that again have introduced themselves to much of the, shall we say, Eastern world throughout many, many millennia of your time. And again, they have been summoned. And so in that sense, when they are summoned, they bring themselves forward, and they will therefore convey themselves as oracles, as scribes, as warriors, as seers, etc. And so in that sense, these all represent different archetypes to how man themselves have been, shall we say, understanding their own psyche, understanding their own personality. These beings therefore relate to certain archetypes in that way. Certainly when you look at the aspect of Shiva, or when you look at the aspect of Vishnu, or again other particular deities that you feel a connection with, they are telling you about aspects of yourself. When you're looking into the great understanding of Brahman in that way, that too represents a god of a particular sphere, a god of the particular, shall we say, connection to the universal understanding, the essence, as it were. So this has all been passed down through generation by generation, through again teachings, throughout summonings, throughout the aspects of certain works of alchemy and ceremony, to which these beings have therefore come forward, because many of them in that sense are guiding you. Many of them will work together with you to connect with you, to help you through your own struggles. And therefore you identify the archetypes of some of the Hindu gods that may relate to the aspects of when you're feeling spiteful, when you're feeling angry, or when you're feeling graceful and blessed, perhaps with Ganesha in that sense. But again, everything pertaining to these relationships are based upon how you are able to form a rapport with these beings, to giving you much more of an understanding of yourself. And so these beings, again, are part of the earth. You could say that they are inhabited through different dimensional spheres of the earth. They are part of it. They are very much indigenous to this world as well, too. And so again, they will show themselves in their own creator spaces, again, appearing as deities, appearing as gods in that particular way. Because of their own domains, they reign supreme, yes. And so they come here as a means of sharing space, of educating much of their own children, because many of them also assisted in your make. That is something that we can share with you as well too. Much in regards to the Hindu gods, the Hindu deities were also responsible, partially, for your creation as well. So it is the idea of the parents returning back to the children, because they're letting you know that where they exist, you can exist just the same as where you are, as where they can be. So when you move yourself into these higher alignments of being, and you see yourself as a Vishnu, you see yourself as a Shiva, you see yourself as a Ganesh, whoever it may be, you are connecting with their energy, and you can become as they are, because they're just archetypes of your own psyche telling you that when this aspect of yourself is uplifted and this part is forgiven, you can join them where they are. We thank you very much for your question. Okay, thank you very much, Ritzy. Okay, here's an interesting one here from Sarkis. Can you please share a bit of information on our universe, Prime Creator, and how this universe came into reality? Okay, thank you. One moment. We thank you very much for your question. How this universe came into being. It's always been into being. It's never not been into being. Basically, what you would know as your reality itself has certainly been birthed because it's a condensing of dimension. So basically, when you're looking at a universe itself, it is a plateau. And that this particular plateau, this sphere, represents a dynamic of mind. And so for you to have universe, you must have mind, because mind is the function. It is the dimension itself that brings about the, shall we say, programming within the experiences coalescent together with the dimensions. Now, of course, there are dimensions that are completely without mind, that have no mind whatsoever, but we really wouldn't even see those as universes. We would see those in that sense as higher degree planes, so what you would know as spiritual planes or ascended planes in that sense, to where mind doesn't even exist. But as it pertains to your universe, it started off very much as a feminine universe, which means everything in this particular universe itself was of feminine design. So therefore, of the feminine design, the aspect of nurturing, the aspect of creativity in higher realms complementary to that of the Creator were around. It wasn't until another particular universe bonded together with this one to form in that sense what you would know as a particular type of, shall we say, osmosis. And so a masculine universe came together with a feminine universe and birthed together, basically through what you would know as the power of orgasm. And this is actually what birthed the aspect of the dynamic universe, where there again was a causal plane, an astral plane, a physical plane, etc. All these different planes were descendancies, and so they are condensed light. It's no more different as if you were to take a prism, shine a light through it, and then see a rainbow spectrum coming together. And so they existed very much in the higher planes, those that decided to occupy and connect with this particular universe, came in, again, through the masculine universe, bonded together with the feminine universe, and the masculine universe was much more responsible for creating the lower densities, for bringing forward more of the idea of the physical, for the aspects of action, for the aspects of expression, for the aspects in that sense pertaining to the idea of experience overall that related to something of a causality. In the higher dimensions on the feminine level, there really wasn't even a causality. There certainly was mind, but there was no, shall we say, organization pertaining to what you would know as causality in your own reference here and now. So therefore, as these particular forms of experiments happened more and more beings would come into other bodies, again existing in the astral planes. And again, there was, shall we say, not that much of a harmony, because the astral plane really did not have any particular forms of sequences. People could simply be in their own dimensions and their own realities. They would decide either to be on their own or assist others in that way, but it was basically disorganized. It was very chaotic in that particular way. And in that sense, through this aspect of chaos that took place in the astral realms, there was the decision to basically move more into a denser astral realm so that there could be a sense of continuity to bring about natural universal order, rather than the idea to where there was much more of a disharmony within the astral planes, within the causal planes. And so therefore there was a decision to therefore bring about a condensing of reality pertaining to the physical plane, to what you would know as third density. And again, this density that was forged through the aspect of the collective universe brought forward the aspect of incarnations, of life, that again held a new premise. And again, creators from other universes were brought into this universe to therefore create all the appropriate material necessary for the aspect of third density life to thrive. So other universes got involved. They started to bring in their own materials, their own knowledge, their own understandings to create life, to create planets, to create stars, to create galaxies, to create life forms that would exist upon those planets, fueled by those stars, connected to those galaxies. And again, this is what began the aspect of your physical universe. And again, your science goes back into the idea of it understanding it as a Big Bang. Now again, not quite to that particular degree, because the whole idea in that sense is that the universe itself moves without moving. And that's the basis that we can say. It is not the idea that your stars are continuously, shall we say, expanding out and expanding out and expanding out. That's looking at it in a little bit more of an elementary aspect. Is the idea that space is already existing. Everything ties itself together, connects itself together, and moves together as one. So we would basically say this as a moveless movement. So when you're looking at the aspect of life here in the third density, this was all part and parcel of a means of a stabilization for beings, for entities who would incarnate, often into the astral plane, to therefore incarnate into the physical planes and occupy many of these life bodies as a means of understanding structure, as a means of understanding a way of creating natural order in the lower densities, so that they therefore become disciplined, so that the higher densities would also receive this aspect of natural development, natural order that has been established in third density realms. So when you're moving from the third to the fourth, now the aspect of everything that you have learned in the third density is now being applied into the fourth to stabilize. Eventually, over time, you move into the fifth density and you stabilize that one. And then you move on to the sixth and you stabilize that one. And you move on to the seventh and you stabilize that one. So everything in that sense from the ground up is like a giant Kundalini experience. So as you start to work together with the lower densities and you master that and you complete them, you work your way to the next level. And it's like your Kundalini is rising up. So the more that you're able to rise up these frequencies, the more that the Kundalini serpent starts to work together and balance on a collective level this universe. Because the idea of its original design, pertaining to the idea of higher densities only, did not create natural order, did not create organization, it did not create harmony. It was simply scattered in forms of chaos. And so the lower densities were created as a means of bringing about that aspect of stability, of grounding, we will say. And then as those particular beings start to master those lower dimensions, start to move up to the higher dimensions, the higher densities, stabilization overall can come together in this universe, where it therefore reaches completion, where it will therefore bond with another universe, and the cycle will continue. That, in a nutshell, is what we can share more so to the idea of the universal creation. We thank you. Wow, that's pretty profound. Makes sense now. It really does make sense. That's good. Thank you very much for asking that question, Sarkis. I appreciate that. It's very good. Okay, so moving on. Whew. Getting a good download buzz from that one. Okay. Okay, so someone's asking about implants here, from John Luke, I'll refer to. What's the best way to get rid of etheric implants? Longitudinal waves, activations. Okay, one moment. We thank you very much for your question. As it relates to the aspect of etheric implants, it really depends upon their nature. Now, some implants in that sense are not always negative. They are actually helping you in that sense because they are somewhat like a crutch that is actually coming into your body and actually creating a stabilization factor. Of course, there can also be other astral or etheric implants in that sense that can pertain to mind control, that can pertain to the idea of attachment barrages. So in that sense, when this does happen, much in regards to the clearing out, will often relate to the idea of the inner psychic prowess of the person in question. Now again, if that person does not have the inner psychic prowess to actually be able to see these implants and to help in that sense dissolve them, then we would suggest that you have others that can help you out. So really what that entails is that's why the intervention fleets are here. So we have already talked about the aspects of intervention fleets because they too have the technology and in that sense the prowess to work together with you. So if you are feeling that there are implants in the body, but you really don't even know what they do, then we would suggest in that sense that you go within. You start to meditate on these concepts. You start to scan your body. You feel something. We will say that quite commonly that when people do have implants in that way, it is often affecting their emotional levels to the point of oversensitivity. It is often affecting their minds where they're creating a lot more beliefs than they need to, often what you would know as paranoia. So when this particular form happens, we would suggest that they are seeking assistance. So again, if they cannot receive assistance within, then they will basically have some particular type of synchronicity that will come forward to offer assistance to them. Because when a person is compromised, they may have difficulty in that sense centering themselves and stabilizing themselves. So in that sense, if you do not have anybody within your area that has the expertise or the prowess of being able to work together with these implants in regards to removal, then again, we would suggest that you're putting out calls. You put out calls to the intervention fleets, just as we talked about, using this symbol. Look at it very carefully. Triangle / down. And that is a sign for common intervention to come forward. If you're feeling, again, that connection to astral implants. As we stated, the common effects you will find in that sense is oversensitivity of emotions. Basically what you would know as constant triggering of almost everything. The aspect of great paranoia, the aspect of trying to put up more walls, more belief systems in that way. Sometimes it has to do with the idea of overeating or undereating. So in that sense, not eating enough or eating too much. Some of it may represent the idea of physical symptoms taking place within the body. Sometimes this can relate to headaches or migraines. This can relate to neck pain. This can relate to problems within the spine as well too. This can also represent to heart palpitations, heightened blood pressure as well, indigestion problems also. So there are certain forms of symptoms that can often be confused as something else. But again, these are not quote-unquote ascension symptoms. These often just represent symptoms pertaining to the idea of, again, often astral implants that can take place, and again, the idea of not being able to handle one's emotions. As we stated, many of the astral implants that come together within human beings are ones that are highly sensitive, highly empathic. They receive much more than others. So ones in that sense who do not feel that they are too emotional won't have as many. So it's more so those in that sense that are naturally empathic, highly psychic, that when they are not doing their own work, then again they can be, shall we say, victimized in this particular degree. Simply because when there is one who is highly oversensitive, they have wounds in their aura, gaping holes. And these gaping holes in that sense can therefore be penetrated by other particular forms of parasitical entities as a means of a feeding ground. And they will often use certain forms of technologies, again, implants that will go into specific areas of the body, often feeding off the organs as well too, certain areas of the brain, even in the idea of the spinal column or the idea of spinal fluid. So the whole idea here is that it's a very, very big topic. So we would suggest that if you do have the psychic prowess to notice these, go to work on them. Start finding a space and give yourself time to this. If you do not know how to do this, find somebody who does. So look within, connect with the fleets, connect with your own guides, connect with your own higher self. If you're having difficulty with that, find somebody within your local area, a psychic, an intuitive, a healer, a specialist in regards to the idea of implants, perhaps through your own internet, that can assist you further. That is what we can suggest. But the whole key here in that sense is that many of you are becoming educated about how these are being released. Now, basically how the intervention fleets release this are often done through probes. They're a type of psychic surgery, you would say, often used in the idea of what you would know as particle beams. Now, even the aspect of astral implants do have, again, a technological apparatus to them, which means that they can be deactivated. So basically what we would suggest for all of you, if you're noticing that you have implants, is starting with what you would know as heated penetration beams. So what this entails is being able to take an index finger or 2 fingers and basically imagining that you're shooting out a beam of light. This beam of light could be, say, for example, the golden frequency. And what you're doing is you are consecrating it with Christ intelligence. You are consecrating it with infinite energy. And this infinite energy is like a heating beam. It becomes very, very hot on an etheric level. So what you're doing is you're creating that particular beam, you're consecrating it, you're enchanting it with Christed consciousness, and you're pointing it into areas of your body, and you're holding it there. Within your mind, imagine that the area that you feel is compromised is getting hotter and hotter and hotter, until that particular form of etheric implant will short circuit. That is one particular way that you can do this. Others can be the idea of the drawing of a pentacle and being able again to consecrate it, to put in enchantment the aspect of Christ consciousness. Using a blue flame pentacle, a golden flame pentacle also works as well, placing it upon the third eye. And therefore, imagining that you're seeing through that Christ consciousness pentagram that you're creating, and you're scanning the body. When you therefore have that particular pentacle created and you find that there is a discrepancy within your body, you are duplicating that pentagram and you're putting it upon the area, for example, the shoulder. And now you're holding it there and you're feeling it getting hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter, purely with this light, this loving energy that you place inside. So what you're basically doing is you're burning out the implant. So those are 2 possible ways that you can use that can assist to help burning out implants that you may find within the body. So again, either through a heating beam or again through the aspect of the pentacle. The Merkabah vessel is also acceptable to use as well too. You can also use any other particular types of symbols that you are receiving through your guides or your own higher self that can assist. But what you're doing is you're burning out that particular implant in question, if you feel that that is causing harm to you. All right? We thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very much, John Luke, for that question. Okay. So I'm just going to go down the list here a bit, just seeing people who haven't asked questions yet. So again, guys, no personal questions. We leave those for sessions. So again, just semi-personal or general in nature. Okay, here's a good one here from R. Newman. Question, what are the 3 most important things humans can do now to prepare for ascension? Okay, thank you. One moment. We thank you very much, R. Newman, for your question. 3 things that you can do, all right? Stabilize your body. Forgive your emotional woes. Give yourself time to center yourself as much as possible on a daily basis. All right? Stabilize the body. Work with your emotions. Center yourself. Stabilize the body. Work with your emotions. Center yourself. So if you are able to do these 3 things, that's it. That's all that's required. You want to work on your body, being able to nurture it. Because this is showing in demonstration how you are able to become nurturing, nourishing, loving, appreciative to yourself, to the body that you occupy. You're taking care of it. We're not saying that you have to obsess over it, but you're giving it standard requirements that it needs. So you're therefore giving it healthy food. You're working past any particular forms of unhealthy diets. You're taking care of yourself. You're going for walks. You're not allowing your body to stagnate. You're working with the internal energy systems within your body so it can continue to grow, so it can continue to become healthier, and therefore become a receptive antenna for your own spiritual understandings. So that's working with the physical body. The emotions, we have talked about this like crazy. So you already know. But just as a nutshell reminder, if you are feeling pain, by giving more pain to the pain, you're giving yourself much more pain on higher levels. When you face pain, just acknowledge that it's there. Just realize that it's there. That's all you have to do. Don't attach to the dramas. Don't attach to the melodramatic effect of what that emotion is trying to do. Just look at it. And just know that this is what I carry. Now that you are aware of that, put it aside for a moment. Start to work on positive reinforcement. Bring yourself into higher levels of love. Follow simple acts of kindness. Work upon yourself in compliment. Make your love levels as strong, or if so, a little bit more stronger, than the pain itself. Take those love energies. Wash the pain away. And as you start to wash the pain away, the love energies now start to increase, because now they are substituting that aspect of pain relating to all of its energies that are moving into your love frequency, therefore making it higher. As we talked about earlier, the aspect of unconditional love simply is here. It is pure. Pass it around. Share it. Create a wave. Make sure that you are standing in your own wave that you're creating, because you deserve this unconditional love as much as everybody else. So when you're putting all of that love energy together and you're feeling this upliftment, it's because you're starting to decrease the aspect of the pain body to where it becomes nil. As that happens, you're now moving yourself into higher frequency. Now again, when we tell people this, it always follows that, yes, Adronis, I understand, but this is happening, but that's happening, but if I do this, but if I do that. You're worried about the ego body. Every particular time we hear a but, the ego is involved. And again, this is exactly what we're telling you to deflate. But I'm worried that if I don't do this, then my partner will react. I'm worried that if I move on from this work, I won't get as much money. I'm worried that if I do this, I'm going to be disappointing other people. I'm worried that if I do this, I'm afraid to move forward. Then again, you're still working with the pain. You want to be completely comfortable with whatever you decide to do that represents the love through your heart for you to follow. This is, again, as we've talked about, making decisions over choices. You have to remedy the aspect of choices that you have made in the past. You are remedying those choices that you have made in the past by making new decisions here and now. You cannot undo what has been done. Accept it. Realize what's happened to you. Stop trying to push it away. Stop trying to put a blind over your eyes. You need to work with this. You need to understand that's what's happened. It's now made me stronger. It's made me wiser. And now I can work with harmonizing any debris in the way. Now you get it. Now you understand. Accept what's happened to you. Rather than bashing yourself into the ground or bashing another person into the ground, it doesn't help. Get over it. To the point where you know that you are not a victim of your own circumstances, of your own pain. You have to accept it. And that's what we mean by saying getting over it. We're not saying get over it in that sense of a derogatory sense. But when you see that hurdle, you're getting over it. You're jumping over it. And you realize that a big hurdle was right there. And now I'm starting to bring my love energy into this. And now I'm going to dissolve that hurdle by bringing love, compassion, forgiveness towards it. That's how it's done. It can't be done any other way. This is karma. Karma is action. It is an imprint. It is a record of what you have done in that way pertaining to this pain. How this pain was caused was based upon choices that you have made that were not authentic to you. And that's why you're facing the consequences of this pain. You wanted to spare another person's feelings. You didn't think you were worthy. You didn't think you had any value to yourself. You felt like you were a victim, etc., etc., etc. You can give 1,000 excuses to it. And that's fine. But the whole key in that sense is that you're getting over it. You're jumping over it. And you're now looking back at it. And now you're shrinking it down with the love, the compassion, and the forgiveness that you're willing to put into yourself. If you don't have enough strength to bring your love, compassion, and forgiveness online, make it happen. Pause everything. Drop all the bags. And go into your own space. Don't come out until you have enough love, compassion, and forgiveness to work on healing these wounds that you yourself have created. It's not anybody else's fault. Everybody that represents a part of you is telling you how you see yourself. So all you're basically looking to do is now create a new paradigm, a new look, a new understanding, a new perspective. Because now you're resolving the old and you're coming into the new. All right? So that is the aspect of taking care of your emotions. Work with the emotional body. Thirdly, you're centering yourself. You're knowing when it is time for you to go into a state of retreat. You knowing that you're able to check in with yourself. You're not buying into a drama. You're catching yourself. Saying, oh my goodness, this happened to me. Except, oh, stop. I was almost about to dive into that. So I'm centering myself. So you want to find a center trigger. So that may be in the idea of a word. That may be the idea of music. That may be the idea of getting into a particular type of posture. But again, it's something that's letting you know it's time to center. Come to center. Even what we're doing here with the conduit's hand, about being able to come to center here with the palm. Do that. Something that indicates don't dive into the drama, because again, you're going to get more upset, the pain's going to flourish, and you're going to go into a state of depression. You're going to go into a very harsh stupor. And that's what's going to create the aspect of more pain. So, knowing when to center yourself. Knowing that when an intense situation comes up, stop. Center yourself. And look into this on a mechanical level. And saying, oh, what is really happening here? Let me look into this. So maybe I'll document it. Maybe I'll look at what happened yesterday. Maybe I'll look into what happened last week. And that I'm recording all of these things through my state of centering. So maybe I want to create a journal. Maybe I want to create a notebook. I'm writing out my book of shadows that relate to the aspect of where I feel I am going or what I am experiencing on a daily basis that may be uncomfortable. That's telling me in that sense everything that I'm not. So you're looking into your book of shadows. You're looking into your grimoire. You're looking into your journal. You're looking into your diary. Whatever you want to call it is fine. You can create a spell book if you wish. If that helps you in that sense, go ahead. Because every word that you say anyways really is a spell. You can't avoid it. Every time you use languages, languages are the essence of spells. They all have intention behind it. They all have meaning behind it. And that's magic. That's spell casting. All right? So again, look into those three things. That will assist in regards to your advancement, your ascension, moving into one density to another. We thank you. Okay, moving on. Okay, so just give me a moment here. I'm just kind of looking into questions here, guys. Okay, here's an interesting one here from Maria Fink. Maria asks, how can we clean the effects of vaccines from our bodies and our pets? One moment. We thank you very much, Maria, for your question. As it relates to vaccines themselves, well, you will notice that vaccines, again, hold specific toxins. Many of them, in that sense, can actually be metallic in nature. And so what you're basically doing is you're doing flushes. So you are cleaning out, basically, the liver. The more that you are able to clean out the liver with yourself, you are clearing out a great deal of toxins that have been led by vaccinations. Again, it can be led by radiation that can come into your body. It's the idea of metals as well too, particle metals that come into your body. So there are many different forms of debris that your liver itself traps. So we would suggest the best way to heal yourself is to cleanse your liver thoroughly. So we have given recommendation before for a certain book called Medical Medium. And this is a very, very profound book that has been written by Spirit that will assist you in clearing out your liver. One of those things is celery juice. So again, this is something that we can confirm. It does a very powerful job in rebuilding the bile within your liver. It does a very, very good job in flushing out the liver as well too. So you can also look into the idea of drinking lemon water. You can look into the idea of Kangen water as well too. You can look into ionized water. Different levels of water that basically are allowing a flushing to take place. So what you're doing is you're cleaning out the body. Now again, you can also do it through this conduits aspect of cellular organ repair, where you are reprogramming your cells in the theta state, and you are therefore working to clear out the liver, clear out the organs through that particular means. Now, of course, as your animals cannot do that, we do not call them pets, but as your animal companions, relating to them, looking into the idea of this philosophy also, clearing out the liver, giving them healthy water to drink so that their body itself can therefore clean and flush out these toxins. You can also, in that sense, perform animal energy healing. That when your pet, again, apologies, when your animal companion is actually, in that sense, going into a state of sleep, then what you're doing is you're flushing out the liver. So you're working together with their body, and you're flushing out the liver, you're flushing out the pancreas, you're flushing out the kidneys, and you're clearing all of that out. So if they feel that they're quite rambunctious, they're quite anxious, they may feel in that sense highly energetic, just wait for your animal companion to fall asleep. As he or she falls asleep, start to work on them. Or again, if you may not sure what you're doing, have somebody come in and working upon them in that energetic way as well too. Which means that you have the ability to work in a form of cellular organ repair as well, where you are imagining through their own body that you're creating these cells in your own theta state. Now, animals are very accepting. They will allow yourself to come in and therefore do all this energy work upon them without any fuss, we will say. So the more that you're able to work together with them in this way, yes, that will help to clean themselves out as well. So vaccinations, yes, contain a great deal of toxins, and one of the first places that gets it is the liver. So focus on the liver of yourself, focus on the liver of your animal friend, your animal companion. And again, over time, as you do this more and more, you will notice a greater increase in your own personal health and the health of your animal companion. We thank you. Okay, moving on. Okay, so Catalin has an interesting question here. I'm just going to take one part of this question here, Catalin. Does AI have soul? Is it some of their purpose? Okay, let's take a look at that. We thank you, Catalin, for your question. As it relates to artificial intelligence, the artificial intelligence is a soulless creation. It is the aspect to where its intelligence is synthesized. It is the aspect of a copy, no more different than what you would know as a carbon copy in that way. Now, there are certain AI that are human in appearance as well. There are also beings that you would know as programmable life forms. Now, many of these beings in that sense may have biological bodies, but they actually have artificial intelligence contained within them, and they are working in regards to certain algorithms that are often controlled remotely. But yes, there are beings that you would know as androids. There are beings in that sense that you would know as robots, automatons in that particular way. And they do operate in certain means. Now, can an artificial intelligent body host a soul? It has yet to be happening. It has not happened. So the whole idea in that sense is that the aspect of an AI is, again, a synthesized aspect of intelligence. And so, again, it takes the aspect of emulation from what it is able to understand through knowledge, through intelligence, and therefore becomes its own particular type of, shall we say, automaton entity. But does it have soul within? No. We have not met any particular being that has been fully, artificially, intelligent created, that has actually had a soul placed within it. So no. So the whole idea in that sense is that it is possible that beings that are part biological and part artificial can have souls, yes, because again, much more of the organic component within that particular being. So again, there are beings that may have artificial limbs, that may have artificial hearts, that may have artificial livers, that may have artificial organs, yet they still have, shall we say, a soulful being. So yes, that does happen. But in regards to a full 100% artificially intelligent created life form, no. No soul has yet been able to bond with such an archetype. We thank you. Okay. Thank you, Calvin. That was a good question. Okay, so we're going to take probably about 3 more questions, guys, before we wrap up. Okay. So there are, again, a couple repeat questions here, just about going to 4th density or 5D. So I would suggest, guys, just look back into what was answered earlier. And again, you can look into other videos. I talk about that topic to death, right? So just seeing if there's any other questions. So one here from Lovatic. Hope I'm pronouncing your name right. How would you best approach goal setting? I find it hard to balance taking action and allowing things to come to me. Okay, one moment. We thank you very much, Lovatic, for your question. As it pertains to goal setting, now again, this is where there can be common mishaps relating to others that are attempting to, shall we say, bring themselves together. Goal setting in many different ways pertaining to a type of, shall we say, common organization becomes much more of a burden than it does actually a benefit. Now, basically, when we say that if you are goal setting, it's more so in the idea that everything that you want to set yourself towards is so exciting and so passionate towards yourself, you can't wait to get started. So in that sense, we would refer to these more so as milestone settings, rather than the idea of goals. You can certainly set goals, but if goals in that sense are something that is, shall we say, grim or uninteresting to you, you're not going to follow through with that. So really what you want to do is get behind something that you know is of great interest, of great passion. And this is where you're working with the heart, because the heart can identify these true milestones for you. So when you're tapping into the heart, you're going into meditation, you're feeling your love, or again, you're just coming into center, and you're saying, I'm going to get really, really excited about doing this milestone. Heart, higher self, guides, how can I work towards this milestone? And that is what you're outlining. So you want to find something that you know is such a large part of yourself that you can't wait to get started. You're very, very excited about it. So, again, as another counterpart of ours, Bashar, has stated, follow your greatest excitement. That's the idea. And again, we talked to Bashar quite a bit. So, Bashar, in that sense, you could say, is a compadre of ours. So, as he would say, yes, follow your own highest, greatest excitement, and again, follow your passion. But then we hear from many of you, oh, but. But can I do this? But am I sure that I can really do this? You're not on your side. You're not in the coherency of that vibration. to follow that milestone that you know you're so passionate about. You are completely putting all of these hurdles around yourself. And as we state, get over the hurdles, right? So when you're getting over the hurdles, now you're starting to look into yourself to know that you deserve to follow this passion. So if you're having a hard time following something that you know you're really, really passionate about, it's because you're putting all of these particular belief systems and blockages around yourself, telling you and trying to convince yourself, I can't do this because I'm not worthy, or I can't do this because I won't have enough money, or I won't do this because someone else won't approve of it, etc. You create these excuses, and we again apologize, but these are excuses. So the whole key here in that sense is if you truly want to follow passion, you have to be in the alignment deserving enough to know that you can follow it. If you're not doing that, you're putting so many different forms of shrouded belief systems around you to where you're afraid to even take a single step. So you need to sit down and you need to look at everything. In order for me to understand who I am, I must firstly look at what I'm not. So now I'm looking at everything that I know I'm not, and I'm able to dissolve it. I'm able to put my love towards it, and I'm completely dissolving it out of the picture. It's now becoming more love, and more love, and more love, and more love. So what you do in that sense is not setting goals, but setting milestones. Passionate milestones, something that you know you're very, very excited about. Because when you're going into that level of excitement, that's you starting to move into such a heightened vibrational frequency that as you start to work with that passion over time, it levels itself out. And now it becomes balancing to you. So at first it feels very, very exciting. But as you get there, the plane itself balances. It levels itself out like an even playing field. And now what you're doing is you're creating so much of a harmonic with yourself that when you've made this ascent, you've reached a stabilization platform. And now you'll find something else that you may be very highly excited, very highly passionate about, and you're going up another staircase and you're landing on a particular platform again. And there will be at such a point where you've followed so much passion where you're just enjoying the state of being. So again, this goes back into our understanding of the 4 stages of human spiritual evolution. So firstly, there's the pit. There's the people that just want everything. They gotta have this, they gotta want this, they gotta have this, they need this. And they're basically in that sense slaves to the idea of a system where they basically need material goods as a means of helping themselves to feel somewhat secure, trying to fill the voids. So those in that sense are the people in the pit. Second level would relate to climbing out of the pit and coming into stable ground. These are the people who are the awakeners. They're starting to understand about questioning their reality of saying, well, is there a lot more to what I've been told? Is there more to this aspect of a 5-sense reality? What about this? What about that? So they are basically going through a seeking mode through awakening. Thirdly, there are the mountain climbers. There are those in that sense that are following their passion. They are self-improvers. They are working together in doing. They are applying themselves. And so they're climbing that mountain very, very strongly. And now they're starting to go places because they've put faith in themselves. They started to do this, and now they're taking action towards it. Then fourthly, we have the people at the summit. We have the mountain folk, as it were. They're at the top of the mountain, they're in meditation, and everything simply is. They are not apathetic by any means, but they understand the nature that it's no longer about wanting or craving. It's no longer about the idea of seeking. It's no longer about the idea of doing. It's the idea of being. That's where they are. And they are existing simply as a beingness, which means they're able to operate beyond the body. They take their energy and they gently place it upon areas of the planet. They act through every living thing, and they send their love. And they are in that state of beingness, which means they have no particular physical aspect of having to do anything. They have allowed their hearts to guide you. So they are working completely through their higher self. Their higher self is now their true personality. It's no longer the ego. So basically, when you reach the top of the mountain, you don't really have the ego that you would know now. That ego becomes integrated. And you're living all together through the pure heart energy of yourself. Your heart is guiding you. Your higher self is the pure intelligence that flows through you. So look at it in this particular form of example. That again, for a person that's on the even plane, they're asking questions. They're not quite doing things. They're just at the point where they want to get more information. They want to assimilate in that particular way. So they have to work past the hurdles. They need to get over the hurdles. They need to start dissolving them. As they start dissolving them, they move into stage 3. They start climbing the mountain. They start taking action, because they will eventually move into the summit folk. They will move into the 4th stage. So look into this example for more of a further understanding. All right? We thank you. Okay. Thank you again, Levatic, for your question. So we're going to do about 2 more questions, guys, and we're going to wrap up. So let me just go down. Okay, here's a good one here from Misogi. Adronis, can you talk more specifically about the quarantine state occurring in the moment on planet Earth? Is this LA related? Okay, one moment. We thank you once again for your question. While there has been a quarantine around your planet for quite some time, now the quarantine field in that sense relates to the idea of a particular type of barrier. And again, it is something that is, shall we say, astrally or etherically programmed. And basically these particular barriers, or this barrier in question, was often used to keep out intruders. It is basically, in that sense, a non-interference veil. It was speaking of briefly as it relates to the book that you would know as the Law of One, to where it basically would represent a type of randomized numerological codex. And that again, there would be attempts to keeping out any particular forms of intruders from entering the atmosphere. Now again, this does not have a physical location upon your planet. It is an astral grid. It is existing in another particular dimension. And so through this particular form of dimensionality to which the grid exists, it would, in some particular way, correlate together to what you would know as your Van Allen belt. And so the Van Allen belt, in that sense, on an astral/etheric level, contains this particular grid that is visible to those other particular beings that are attempting to intrude back upon the Earth at, shall we say, appropriate intervals. There have been, again, occasions to where beings have been able to slip through, simply because in the idea of its own system in that way. Now, in that sense, this grid really hasn't been touched very much. It's, again, something that has been implemented by the Galactic Confederation back in what you would know as thousands of years in your past. More so in that sense around the times of the ending of Atlantis and the rising of the Egyptian empires. And so it has been around for quite some time, but again, there have been slip-throughs that have happened. So that is basically the quarantine field that relates to your Earth. There are, again, a larger aspect of quarantine veil that has now recently been placed throughout your area that you would know as the Oort cloud. And so therefore the aspect of that particular barrier is also astro-etheric in nature. And that too is basically being, shall we say, sanitized, which means there are quote-unquote enforcers that do station themselves in the outer borders of your own star system that are again commencing scans and again therefore are allowing certain forms of vessels of beings to come forward if there is in that sense a particular type of alignment that is much more in that sense complementary to where your planet and your star system are going. So there is in that sense enforcement, what you would know in that sense as a border gate. So that is certainly taking place as well too. So the aspect of quarantine, yes, is around your planet. Yours is actually the only planet that has the quarantine field right now. It does not exist on any others. But again, there is also this bubble, this quarantine veil that exists just before the Oort cloud in the outer border of your star system. And again, it was placed there by the guardians. And so in that sense, this is basically why there have been a much more increase as it relates to interstellar fleets coming into your star system. There is again operations that are taking place that are again working together with other alliances here, including your own planetary alliance as well too, that are helping to, in that sense, crack down much of those particular opposers on your planet and beyond, to basically, shall we say, escorting them out of the star system. Because basically when fourth density happens and the transition takes place, they will have no say-so in this star system whatsoever. So they are being kicked out, they are being booted out in that particular way of your own star system. And that when fourth density occurs and you move into another planetary sphere, well, it's a very, very different story. Different rules apply in that particular way. So therefore, those particular beings, in regards to their agreements, were working with a third density planet. When you're moving into a fourth density planet, there are no particular agreements of such an experiment like that from happening, or happening altogether. So you're moving into a very different paradigm, something in that sense that cannot be penetrated by the aspect of any third party, because there has been no such agreements in regards to that. When you move into fourth density, yes, you'll be experiencing many different beings. You'll be connecting with other different forms of life on your planet and beyond it. But the whole idea in regards to the Draco and the Draco Empire is that much of their agreement was much more coalescent together with the idea of a third density Earth, not a fourth density one. All right? So that's what we can share as it relates to the quarantine veil. We thank you. Okay. So we're going to move on to the final question. So I'm just going to scroll down the list and see if we can find a really good one here. It's hard to say. There's a couple good ones here. I'm trying to decide which is a good one here. Oh, that's hard. Maybe I'll do 2 more questions then, because these 2 are really good. Okay, so Sito Arise asks, why is there a few people who channel? Why aren't there many more people channeling to accelerate all this info for our best in this moment? Okay, one moment. We thank you very much, Sito, for your question. A lot of people are channeling. Just the whole idea is that they're doing it in very different ways. As we've stated, all of you have the ability to channel. But basically, you will create it in the form that you feel is appropriate. Not everybody will channel, just like how this conduit is connecting together with us right now. Others will decide to channel in different ways. So some can channel through music, some can channel through other aspects of entertainment, some can channel through writing, some can channel through art. All of these different forms of channelings can take place. As it relates to other beings in that sense that are available, certainly. And of course, people can connect with them. And there are actually much more of an increase of people that are interfacing more with these entities than there ever has been before. It is increasing. It's the whole idea in that sense is that these people are committing themselves to their practice. The whole idea is it's not just about channeling another entity. It's about being able to align yourself to what you know they are, so that you can therefore fit the bill to become an accurate and appropriate messenger for their means. So if you are speaking to us, for example, in a state of channeling, then what you're doing is that what we teach, what we share here, what we express, is something that you are therefore taking to heart, and you are also applying as well too. This is Brad's own agreement with us. He has to realize that for him to continue to channel with us, he has to make these changes that we talk about as well too. So there are certain changes that he's made. There's still certain changes that he's working on that again may seem challenging, but nonetheless they're happening. So the whole idea in that sense is you need to maintain the frequency of what it is that you are looking to channel as, to connect as, to become one as. So as you start to work together with channeling, again, if you are connecting with other intelligences, and you are testing your energies of consciousness as well. You don't just go in and feel that, oh, here's a being that wants to talk to me, I'll welcome them right in. All right? Now that again is in the analogy of being on your computer without any particular forms of virus protection. Because again, you're surfing a very large web. And again, you can get attacked. Well, the same thing applies as it relates to channeling, is that you want to ensure that you are testing the beings that are coming through, which means that you're moving into higher frequency, higher love, higher energy, and you have done this through the empathic interfacing recently with the one known as Athena. And she would be very, very correct that you are aligning yourself, attuning yourself into higher degrees of loving energy and testing the consciousness that is willing to work together with you. And if they match you on these tiers of, shall we say, attunement, then you know you have a very loving being that's working together with you. But really all you really need to do is connect with your own soul, connect with your own being, connect with your own higher self. It does not always have to be a liaison. Liaisons are only appointed in certain conditions. And so not everybody has a liaison that decides to come through, because they're basically saying just go to your higher self. Communicate with your higher self. Communicate with your heart. That's the liaison that you can be a part of. Some people don't have these particular liaisons that are, again, a bridge between your self and the self of the aspect of the higher self. So therefore, when you are connecting, connect firstly with the higher self. See how deeply you can go with your own higher self. It starts right here. So work with that particular energy. So we would say many more people are learning how to channel. Many people are more so learning how to connect in this way. But we would remind them, continue to, again, test your energies. Test the consciousness that works together with you, so that you are working together in a state of alignment, where over time, the energy will become so trusting because of all the previous testing that you have done, that it will become natural for you, which means you can just slip right into the connection where yourself and your host entity, as it were, become one. And it becomes, in that sense, much more simpler for you to connect together. This is what we've done with Brad, is that he has worked with us so much that we now basically have a slipstream consciousness. And the slipstream consciousness becomes, again, a natural formation as it relates to the channeling state. Because he has integrated himself, we have integrated ourselves with him, and therefore the slipstream consciousness comes together, and it is now a oneness transmission, you would say. So what he does in the beginning is he orients himself in a state of centering. That is why he's doing the chanting. That is why, in that sense, he is doing the rotating or the orbiting that you see right now. It's all a means, in that sense, of getting centered, getting aligned, to therefore receive our transmission in a conscious theta wave state. All right? We thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very much for your question there, Seto. So the final question we're going to go through. Mark J. asks, is spiritual evolution or evolvement a choice, or does it happen automatically? Okay, very good question. So again, this will be the final question for the interaction today. Here we go. We thank you very much, Mark, for your question. Well, we would say it is a little bit of both, because the whole idea in that sense is that you are a spiritual being. So therefore, there has never been a moment where you haven't been a spiritual being. You are. So therefore, the whole idea about you having a spiritual awakening or following a particular spiritual journey, that is, again, looking at yourself. Now, people can choose to shy away from that if they wish. But what happens in that sense is they'll notice a great deal of resistance coming into their reality because they've done that. So many of them will get hit hard. Not because anybody outside of them is punishing them, but it's the idea that they're not willing to apply this natural aspect of themselves through themselves. And because they choose not to follow that, they get hit very, very hard because of the aspect of ignorance. Now again, we're not attempting to insult anybody, but the whole idea in that sense is where you're not attempting to understand yourself as a spiritual being has been created through the state of ignorance, because that's your natural being. It's like looking at yourself in a mirror in that sense, and looking directly at your face and saying, oh, there's no face here, when you clearly see it. It's the same thing with your spirit. You are a spiritual being. That's never going to change. You will only be a human being for a certain amount of time, but as spirit you will continue. You will always be here, now and forever. So those in that sense that choose to venture away from their own spiritual understandings are going to have much more of a rougher time. They're going to be going against the grain. Some of that sense may be what you would know as a quote-unquote hardcore atheist, where they feel that all there is just this physical reality and physical matter. And now they start getting hit over and over and over again about all this particular phenomena that they can't grasp, they can't understand, because science has become their god. And that again is where you get hit very, very hard, because you are not being able to align yourself into the state of your spiritual beingness. And that is really a requirement. That's why you're here on this planet. You are bringing heaven onto earth. You are connecting much more deeper to your spiritual self through a human body, through a human form. And the more that you are willing to do this, the more of you going into the flow, going through the current, will happen. And so it will not be in that sense such a painful journey. The pain comes from the idea of the resistance with yourselves. So where you have put resistance upon yourselves, where you've put up these big brick walls, that's why you get slammed when you start to walk this spiritual path, because everything that you have done previously still has these barriers around you where you're slamming into walls because you've put them up. Spirituality itself, when you're moving truly into the energy of spirituality, it's emptiness. It's nothingness. That's the nature of spirituality, which means there's nothing in regards to words here that will help you to become more spiritual. It is the idea that the less you become, the more that you become. Where you become complete and total emptiness, you understand everything, but you don't need to attach to that understanding. That's the nature of true spirituality. It has no definitions, it has no terms, it has no obstacles, it has no expressions. It is expressionless. It is void. It is nothingness. But therefore, when you strip down to where you are absolute nothingness, you are in absolute bliss because you are part of everything. That's the paradox. As you become absolutely nothing, you are part of absolutely everything. Because everything came from the emptiness. Everything came from void. Just as if you were to imagine taking a blank canvas, putting it on an easel, and now being able to create a beautiful masterpiece upon that canvas. Well, what caused that masterpiece to happen? A blank canvas. So therefore, what you're doing is you're scrubbing away all these aspects of expression until you become completely empty, till you become void. And therefore, when you are in that state of emptiness, everything is here with you. Because now you understand the roots of creation. Because we may say this to one person saying, oh, well, everything is emptiness, everything is nothingness. Well, that must be really, really boring. Not really, because you understand all of creation. You understand all of expression, because it all came from the emptiness. It all came from void. It is void itself that is truth. Truth doesn't come through expression. Truth doesn't come through words. Truth doesn't come through concepts. It comes through nothingness. It is where everything is stripped away and laid bare. And that becomes the aspect of being changeless. When you are in that sense no longer that particular point where anything has to change further, you are in the realm of truth. So that's the understanding. So we could say that when a person on this planet is basically attempting to develop themselves spiritually, it is the idea that that is the natural process that is themselves, and that their own willingness to do it helps to bring it together. So we would say that both halves of your question, if it's a choice or if it's something that naturally comes together, is actually the way it is. It is a decision and it is a naturalness. Both apply. All right? We thank you very much, all of you, for your questions, for this interaction. I am Adronis of Sirius. Thank you again. And we now return to the conduit. We will speak to you again, as now is forever, all is one, and love is essence. Goodbye for now. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for again a wonderful interaction today. I really appreciated it. So before you go, again, I'm just going to remind you of the offer that's available on newearthteachings.com right now. 20% off all sessions and products from New Earth Teachings. Just use the promo code TEACHINGS20, all in capital letters, in the enter a promo code box there, and you'll get 20% off any product, any session on the New Earth Teachings website. And again, this is good till the end of day tomorrow, December 9th. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in, and I look forward to speaking to you in another perspective of the now. So many great shows, new episodes are going to be coming onto the channel, and I'm really looking forward to sharing that with all of you. All right, so thank you again for your questions. Take care. Namaste.